Hello and welcome to Bolt Action Reloading. In this week's episode, we'll be talking about the Hornady 147 grain ELD match loaded with accurate 4350. Stick around. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here and you'd like to see how I and the rest of the community here make our group smaller, start now by subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell icon. That way you'll get notified when I post new videos and you won't miss anything. Guys, this is a continuation of our new powders that we've got for the channel and doing some testing with them. I've had some good luck with the 147 in the past, and not to spoil a surprise, but I don't think today will be any different. However, the biggest difference will be the powder. This is the first testing we've done with this accurate 4350. And if you haven't been able to find H4350, there's a possibility that this might be on the shelf at your local powder supply store, and maybe you'd like to give it a try. But since our only real source of data for this came from the Hornady manual, I don't think we're going to have earth-shattering velocities today, but we'll at least get a good idea to see how the powder performs and see what if our groups look any good. So, without further ado, let's just get into the load data. For today's video, we're using the Hornady 147 grain ELD match, part number 26333. The primer is the CCI 250 Large Rifle Magnum Primer. The brass for today's video, it has multiple firings of Hornady brass trimmed back to 1.910 inches. And again, accurate 4350 powder loaded from 40.0 all the way to 41.5 grains. The cartridge overall length we're sticking with is a 2.850 inches that we've had luck with before. And for those of you that are keeping track at home, yes, that 41.5 grains is 0.3 grains over Hornady's listed max, but it seems, especially for this projectile, that there are frequently a lot of people pushing it much hotter than the book says, though we're not going too far over today. And since we're going into such small steps, we obviously would have stopped had we seen any pressure signs that made us nervous. For example, guys, if you're following along at home, Hornady lists the maximum for super performance for this projectile at 42.9 grains. However, I've had very good matchup with the Sierra's 150 grain Sierra Match King data. They're actually listing a max charge weight of super performance at 46.6 grains with Sierra's data. So there are very significant differences with the load data for this weighted projectile. And so far, using Sierra's data on it, I really haven't gotten into any trouble. The problem with today's video, there really isn't any accurate 4350 load data there. So we're going to start with Hornady's and see where we start and maybe see where we go. So getting right into it, starting at 40 grains, our estimated velocity was 2555. Our actual achieved velocity was a respectable 2547. Standard deviation of 8.7 and an extreme spread of 22 feet per second. And a group size of 0.793 MOA. At 40.5 grains, our estimated velocity went to 2578. Our actual achieved velocity was 2554. Standard deviation opened up to 10.2 with an extreme spread of 21. Groups are a little interesting here. If you allow me to go to that 4-shot group, it looks like we're at 0.453 MOA. But if you'd like to include that flyer, we're at 1.411 MOA. You guys be the judge and jury. However, moving right along to 40.9 grains, our estimated velocity was 2586. Our actual achieved velocity was 2552. Standard deviation was a very nice 7 with an extreme spread of 16 and a 0.456 MOA group. At 41.2 grains, our estimated velocity was 2600 feet per second. Keep in mind, this is the max charge per Hornady's manual. Actual velocity achieved was 2569, standard deviation of 12.8, extreme spread of 33, and a 0.724 MOA group. Going 0.3 of a grain over max at 41.5 grains, our estimated velocity would have been about 2614. However, we achieved 2592, a standard deviation of 8 and an extreme spread of 18, but our group opened up to 1.095 MOA. Trying to keep everything as efficiently as we possibly can, we'll just take a quick look at the brass here, and a quick look at it will be, obviously, sticking with Hornady's data, even going that 0.3 of a grain over max, and all this testing doing on a nice warm day, probably 92 degrees Fahrenheit approximately when we ran this test today. No pressure signs whatsoever to be seen. Overall, I'm actually very impressed. Keeping in mind, guys, the Hornady brass, over all the different types of brass we've tested, really has not been able to give us the best statistics. So seeing that we had 3 of the 5 standard deviation of these loads actually in single digits, would have been nice to have the extreme spreads a little bit lower, but 1 at 16, 1 at 18, but overall, pretty good numbers. And the groups are really good too. Again, giving a little bit of leeway with that one flyer, the first 4 groups are well under 3/4 of an MOA. If you're the kind of guy that can get up on a rifle and always shoot under half an MOA, good for you, but I'm really not that guy. So having a couple groups that would fall into that number really make me feel good. Again, especially with Hornady brass not being perfect, I do think that that has played into the equation when you're really trying to get those groups to shrink. Guys, like I've done the last couple videos at the very end after I've done my summary, some of you guys had asked to see the groups as they were shot. I will include that again at the end of the video if you're interested. If not, feel free to find another video down on the list that you'd like to see. We really didn't expect any pressure, and as you can see, really no pressure signs at all here, guys. The primers really aren't flattened very much, and not even the slightest ejector mark anywhere on the brass that I could find. Certainly no concerns of pressure here whatsoever. And I do feel, at least for my rifle, everything here was perfectly safe. But as always, draw your own conclusions. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and found it informative. If you have any questions or comments, please put those in the comments section below. If you're not subscribed to the channel and you like the content, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button. And like always, until next week, stay safe in small groups.